One thing, oh yeah, she had some students from Africa came in the 70s, and they came over to see Miss Donovan. They actually built those while they were in town.
My name is Lorenzo Savage. I'm a resident and born and raised in East St. Louis, Illinois. I'm the executive director, co-founder of IAMESTL Louis, the foundation, as well as a member of the Katherine Dunham Center for Arts and Humanities Board. One of my earliest memories may be going to Grant's department store. It used to be on State Street up by Eastside High School. And we'd go out to eat there for dinner every Thursday night. I may have been 4 or 5 years old. And again, of course, riding my big wheel throughout the community with the lunchbox on the back. Well, I think the big thing is just the village that we had when I was growing up. Again, like I try to tell people, most of the students that went to high school and elementary school with me, their parents were the teachers and the cooks and the police, and they lived in the community. And we had I think we had like 70,000 population at that time in the 70s. So I think that village, trying to bring back that village attitude to the city. Most people know about white flight nationwide, right? I mean, it all happened mostly during the 50s and 60s. I know we kind of attributed to the 60s, the Black Power movement, which was around 1963, when in fact, Senator Dick Durbin, who you saw in the picture there, he was saying his parents were in their late 50s meeting secretly, talking about moving out. So I would say it was around the mid 50s and during that time frame. And when you talk about white flight, we're talking about economic flight as well, businesses and those things as well. My family is actually from Madison, Illinois, and Eagle Park. It's a little village in Madison, small little village. And then when, my mom would take us shopping in Granite City. There was a department store called Glick's, and we were walking, and just somebody hollered out, "Nigger," go back to, Eagle Park, go back to Madison or something. I don't remember the exact words, but I know my older sister and brothers were, ready to get upset. And my mom was like, just, keep walking and don't say anything. We don't choose what skin that we're born with, but I'm happy with the skin that I am in and the parents that I had. And, I feel like East St. Louis has gotten a bum rap ever since, there has been white and economic flight. And when we talk about economic flight, we're talking about middle class, upper class blacks. Because remember back then, it was probably 80% white in the city, but you still had black dentists and lawyers and doctors who lived in the black community. Miles Davis' dad was a famous, his dad was a dentist in the community for a long time. So we had that in the community, but I think nowadays, going throughout my city, I see a lot of work that needs to be done, but I'm happy to see a lot of the young people and how they're stepping up and cleaning up the community in spite of other, challenges. My wife and I, one thing she always said when we give speeches is to the young people is to learn, earn, and return. Go off, get an education like we did. My wife went to McKendree University, and I went to Hampton University in Virginia Beach, in Hampton, Virginia. And then we worked. My wife, like I said, was in the Navy for 20 years. We moved around from Virginia to Chicago and then San Diego. So we got a chance to learn something outside of our community, and then we eventually moved back. So that's one thing I think is important, that a lot of the young people now are recognizing the value that we have here. When you talk about real estate agents, they always say location, location, location. And East St. Louis is perfectly set for development, especially with the Metrolink, which you just heard pass by. It runs right down the spine of the city. So there can be a lot of transit-oriented development that's going to happen. And there are some new homes being built over in the Lansdowne community, 20 new homes that are going to be priced at $200,000 to $300,000. So we're seeing people recognize the value of the location And like you said, we want to have it to be strategic and, to benefit the people who stayed here too, as well. You see people from East St. Louis, still, they're proud to be from East St. Louis. But I say that's fine, but you need to be proud of East St. Louis now as well. If you teach here, your kids should go to school here, And I know a lot of teachers and educators, and they get kind of upset with me when I say that, because they're like, hey, I can have my kids go to school anywhere. And I say, yeah, but that is the main problem that we have. If you don't have the teacher, if you as a teacher don't want, don't feel that the school is good enough for your child, why should you be here, And so I think a lot of them want to move back home, but we have to create the environment for them to be able to, housing, and then the businesses will follow after that, I think. The city has on the books a requirement for city workers to be on the books, to be a resident of the city in order to work here, but they, allow people, they relaxed the requirement. And of course, my kids went to Belleville East. We were living in Virginia, and then we moved back home. We didn't move to East St. Louis. We moved to Belleville, and we were able to go to, my kids went to Belleville East, graduated from there. So I understand, that concern for parents, but again, it's the problem. It is a problem, if you don't have the people who work here and take the tax dollars out of the community, don't live here, it's a constant sucking noise that we hear, and I tell people the population in East St. Louis double every day and then triples on Sunday, but it goes back down after everybody leaves. Well, I believe, and we can look at this nationwide, during that time, you had people beginning to fight for their civil rights, particularly black people in America. And some people just couldn't accept that, there has been several examples of people's houses being burned out and murdered, killed, lynched, because they want to live in harmony with other people. And I believe that has been an issue with America as a whole, is that after 200-300 years of slavery, and then you had, the emancipation, black people have never been really accepted into the bosom of America, I like to tell people, I believe if that would have happened then, and we truly had, equal rights at that time, then our community wouldn't be in the way it is now. As I stated, I'm the president of the Catherine Dunham Center for Arts and Humanities, and then we have a museum which is located about 10 blocks away from here. And we also have 3 homes, one of which Ms. Dunham lived in during her stay here in East St. Louis. We've been working with the SIU construction administration students, and they've been really helpful in providing us with some ideas, cost estimates, and something that making it more practical for them and not just classroom projects, So Professor Cabbage, John Cabbage, and Connie Fry Spurlock, she's in the sociology department. So they've really been really helpful with us in providing some of those things to help us move our project forward and shine a light on it as well. Again, my wife and I were living in San Diego. She was working for the government as a human resources officer on Coronado Bay, working with the Navy SEALs, which is pretty cool. And I was working downtown San Diego, walking to work every morning as a project architect. And then her cancer had came back really strong. And she had been battling cancer for like 20 years, and really was a great soldier in that. At that point, that was around 2014, and we decided to move back home and really try to fight it, and be with family. I mean, that's the main reason we moved back home. Both of our families are here, and that support base was really helpful for us. There was a reporter, and I won't say her name, but she said she was from East St. Louis. Nobody knew her. And she was saying that East St. Louis was, like a day in Iraq, in one of her articles. And my wife really took umbrage with that, particularly because she spent a year in Iraq, serving our country. So that really got under our skin. And we were like, what can we do, to help combat this issue. Because every time you turn on the news, even in St. Louis, the first 5 minutes, somebody shot, some child has shot their brother or shot themselves. We become so desensitized. But it really hurts our community when people do that and say that. Chevy Chase had a movie, Vacation. I know you guys seen that movie. And they're supposed to have drove through East St. Louis, and their car was stripped while they were driving it, which is hilarious. But it still was harmful because I grew up in a community that, again, there was no really crime unless you were looking for it. I mean, certain areas in any community, there's a place you don't go. But we felt like we needed to help change the narrative, and really show people what East St. Louis truly is. We call ourselves a city of champions. Everybody knows us for sports, but we've got per capita some, the most doctors and PhDs and military. Like I said, my wife was a commander in the Navy. I know colonels and lieutenant colonels that are in the military that come from the city. So we wanted to highlight that, and we did it in we got a quarterly magazine, and there are 4 subjects. The first one is public servants, and that highlights, again, public service in the community and abroad. They could be anywhere in the world, but if they're from East St. Louis, we want to highlight them. And after public servants come out, the sports issue. Of course, we're going to have a sports issue. And, the sports issue doesn't necessarily talk about people who are currently in sports. It could be someone who, we did one on a young lady. She's a professor at a college right now, but, her coaches instilled in her something that helped make her successful in what she's doing now, and that being from East St. Louis. And then after sports, we have business professionals, and then we have art and education. So, basically 4 magazines, but talking about all ranges of work. And the magazine is to, I believe, and my wife and I believe, we're documenting history today for later. When people look back at East St. Louis, and I believe the magazine will still be around, but they're going to see a progression of how we changed it. And I think this has been a catalyst for that change, because young people have to see somebody who came out of the same situation they did. It's easy. And again, like I say, if the teachers lived in the community, it'll be a different attitude towards them, because they really would have a firsthand concern for them. When I was growing up, I didn't have a lot of money in our family, and sometimes I didn't have bus fare. And my calculus teacher gave me a ride home because he lived up the block from us, And, several times I've had instructors and teachers do things like that. And I think that's a part of the village, that help the kids aspire to something else. And I think that's what the magazine does, is to say, hey, these people came from the same place you come from. So if they can do it, you can do it. And that's the message that we want to get out. And on the cover it says, a real place with real people. And we want people to respect that. Provide, moral support. And again, like I said, people who want to be a part of the change can move back home. We're really trying to target empty nesters like myself. Our kids are 30 and 32, so I don't have that school issue to deal with. And I'd like to see some of those teachers and administrators, city workers, to consider that, because like I said, Mr. Mestermacher, Mark Mestermacher, he's with Jackie Joyner Kersey Board. He's the one developing 20 houses in Lansdowne. So we can have, say 10 developers like that come in the city and do things. MetroLink, Metro has done a lot. They're developing a new structure over on Emerson Park, probably about $5 million. And then we were supposed to have the state police headquarters come into the city, which would be about $50 million worth of development. So I think the things are being done to set the table for some change, and it's going to benefit our community. A young man named Zach Chike. If you see some of these billboards, these little small billboards, you see like 89 blocks strong. You've been seeing those. He just took that upon himself. We started with just regular cleanups, with the Catherine Dunham houses. They were talking about tearing those down, and I went over there, and the board had lost them through some issues. But the trees were growing up so bad around it, you couldn't even see the houses. If you go to Google Earth, you'll see what I'm talking about versus what it looks like now. And it was a danger for the community and the school, which is right across the street. So I had got together a cleanup crew and people like R3 Development, which is a nonprofit in the city, helping young men and young women learn about construction. They came out and helped us clean up. So it's really been a grassroots revolution here in the city, a renaissance. And I'm happy that, like I said, I'm 54, but these young people, 25, 30, are doing the work too. So I feel like we do have a positive future. I'm seeing it now, and like you said, I want to, I hope, like you said, in the next 15 to 20 years, we'll see population really grow here in the city, and the city become more productive. Mm-hmm. So you're right. I mean, we have to squeak a little louder, and the way we do that is by voting. A lot of times in the city, the last election, we only had like 15% turnout. And that's not going to get us any power, So I'm working towards, registering people for next year, building up our community. Because if we maximize our votes, we're more powerful than any of these communities around here, honestly. East St. Louis was the political hotbed, before the 1950s and 60s. So it can be that again, I believe.